In the beginning, there were rules. If you wanted a computer to do something, you had to tell it exactly what to do, line by line, instruction by instruction. For decades, that was the reality of programming. Computers could only do what they were explicitly told. Nothing more, nothing less. Then came a quiet revolution. In the early 2010s, researchers began experimenting with a new kind of machine learning, one where systems could learn from data rather than just follow fixed rules. Deep learning, powered by neural networks, showed astonishing promise. And nestled within that innovation was a concept that would change everything: transformers. Fast forward to 2017. A groundbreaking paper titled "Attention is All You Need" introduced the transformer architecture to the world. Created by researchers at Google, this model offered a radically efficient way for machines to process sequences of information, like words in a sentence. It was faster, more scalable, and more effective than anything before. This architecture would go on to become the foundation of ChatGPT. But the journey to a chatbot that feels conversational, helpful, and human-like didn't happen overnight. It took years of experimentation, training, failure, and iteration, driven by OpenAI. OpenAI, a San Francisco-based research company, had a mission: to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. In 2018, they released GPT, Generative Pre-trained Transformer, a model that could generate human-like text by predicting the next word in a sentence. It was trained on a massive dataset of internet text, learning grammar, facts, reasoning patterns, and even humor. Then came GPT-2, a bigger, bolder version. Its text was so convincing that OpenAI initially withheld its full release, citing fears of misuse. People were stunned. A machine could now write essays, poetry, and code with surprising coherence. But GPT-3, released in 2020, took things to another level. With 175 billion parameters, the adjustable parts of a neural network, GPT-3 became the most powerful language model in existence at the time. It could answer questions, summarize texts, translate languages, write stories, and even mimic famous authors. Still, GPT-3 had limitations. It could produce impressive content, but it wasn't conversational. It didn't remember context well across interactions, and it often hallucinated, confidently producing information that sounded right but was completely wrong. The challenge was clear. How do you take a powerful language model and turn it into a safe, helpful, and coherent assistant? Enter ChatGPT. In November 2022, OpenAI introduced ChatGPT to the public. It wasn't a brand new model, but a fine-tuned version of GPT 3.5, trained using a method called reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF. Here's how it worked. First, humans wrote example conversations, both good and bad. Then, the model was trained to mimic the good ones and avoid the bad. Next, human trainers ranked multiple responses from the model. These rankings were used to train a reward model, which guided further fine-tuning using reinforcement learning. The result, a chatbot that felt dramatically more aligned with what users expected. ChatGPT could answer follow-up questions, admit mistakes, challenge incorrect assumption, and even inject a bit of personality. What made ChatGPT special wasn't just its intelligence, but its approachability. For the first time, people around the world could talk to an AI like they would a friend or a tutor. Students used it for homework help. Writers used it to overcome creative blocks. Programmers asked it to debug their code. Therapists, marketers, and small business owners found creative ways to incorporate it into their workflows. In just 5 days, over 1 million people signed up. ChatGPT wasn't just a product, it was a cultural moment, the beginning of a new kind of interaction between humans and machines. But behind the scenes, the technology kept evolving. In March 2023, OpenAI released GPT-4, a more advanced model that brought improvements in reasoning, safety, and multimodality. GPT-4 could process images as well as text, allowing users to ask questions about charts, screenshots, or photos. It was also more resistant to hallucinations and better at following nuanced instructions. OpenAI integrated GPT-4 into ChatGPT+, providing premium users with more powerful capabilities. Over time, plugins, memory, and web browsing features were added, expanding what ChatGPT could do, from planning travel to interpreting data to generating code. Meanwhile, developers began building tools around the ChatGPT API. Entire startups sprang up overnight. ChatGPT became not just a chatbot, but a platform, a core part of the growing AI ecosystem. As its influence grew, so did the ethical questions. What should AI be allowed to say? Who decides its values? Can it be misused for misinformation, fraud, or manipulation? OpenAI introduced safeguards, content filters, and usage policies, but the debate continues. The balance between openness and safety is still being explored. To us today, ChatGPT is a symbol of what's possible when deep learning meets human-centered design. It's not perfect. It still makes mistakes. It doesn't understand the world like we do, but it represents a massive leap forward in our ability to communicate with machines. It was born from years of research, thousands of human interactions, and the vision of making intelligence more accessible. The story of ChatGPT is still being written, and every conversation, every question, prompt, or reply adds to its evolution. From rule-based code to transformer-powered dialogue, we've come a long way, and this is only the beginning. To truly appreciate the significance of ChatGPT, we also need to understand what it means on a cultural and psychological level. For decades, artificial intelligence was a concept reserved for science fiction. Films like Her or Ex Machina imagined futuristic scenarios where machines could understand and respond to human emotion. With ChatGPT, those visions started to feel less like fantasy and more like a glimpse of our near future. Conversations that once seemed robotic now felt surprisingly warm, helpful, and engaging. People began sharing stories online about how ChatGPT helped them through lonely nights, or how it became a non-judgmental space to vent thoughts they couldn't share elsewhere. This sparked a deep question. Can machines offer companionship? Technically, ChatGPT has no emotions, no consciousness, and no understanding. It generates responses based on probability and pattern recognition. But the illusion of understanding, so compelling and natural, often feels real to users. Psychologists weighed in. Some warned of emotional overdependence. Others saw potential therapeutic uses, especially in underserved communities. The consensus? ChatGPT is not a therapist or friend, but it can be a tool for reflection, exploration, and support when used wisely. Education, too, felt the ripple effects. Students began using ChatGPT for everything from test prep to learning new languages. Teachers were both excited and concerned. Was this a cheat engine? Or could it become a tutor that scaled individualized learning? Some schools banned it outright. Others embraced it, redesigning assignments to incorporate AI-assisted thinking. New educational philosophies began to emerge, ones that viewed AI not as a threat to learning, but as a catalyst for deeper inquiry. In the workplace, productivity tools powered by ChatGPT started to replace repetitive tasks. Drafting emails, summarizing meetings, writing code documentation, what once took hours now took minutes. This raised another question. What is the future of work in an AI-augmented world? Far from replacing humans, ChatGPT seemed to amplify their capabilities, freeing up time for more meaningful tasks, creative thinking, and strategic decisions. Still, adaptation was needed. Skills like prompt engineering and critical thinking became more valuable than ever. Even in the creative arts, ChatGPT played a role. Writers used it to brainstorm plot twists. Musicians experimented with AI-generated lyrics. Game designers created dynamic storylines with branching dialogues. It didn't replace the muse, but it became an unexpected collaborator. Of course, the model had its limits. ChatGPT doesn't know what it doesn't know. It can't access real-time data unless explicitly given tools. It doesn't have opinions, beliefs, or memory unless those features are manually activated. And without updates, it forgets context between sessions. Yet despite its constraints, the public response was overwhelmingly positive. People saw it not just as a tool, but as a mirror, a way to see their own thoughts, reflected, processed, and restructured. In helping us communicate better with machines, ChatGPT also helped us understand ourselves a little more. So where does this leave us? We're standing at the edge of a new frontier, one where conversation becomes an interface, where knowledge is accessible through dialogue, where your questions, no matter how complex or emotional, can be met with thoughtful instant feedback. The birth of ChatGPT wasn't just a technological achievement, it was a human one, because what made it truly powerful wasn't the scale of its model, but the depth of its purpose: to connect, to support, to empower. From a transformer paper in 2017 to a chatbot on millions of screens, to a catalyst for global AI transformation, ChatGPT is not just an invention. It's a beginning. The beginning of a new way to think, to learn, and to imagine what's possible.